So going back to our example app here, our conduit app, we've got these popular tags on the right. And let's say that we want to build out something on the left that actually resembles a real feed. So let's say we have some feed data, maybe some records of representing these different articles. Now, ultimately, when we get to the real application, we're going to have more fancy stuff going on over there with these articles in the feed. They're going to have pictures. They're going to have tags listed on there. They're going to have links. But for now, it's just, we're going to render this in a sort of plain, static way that just lists the title of the article, a little bit about what's going on with it, and then a read more thing that's not even a link. It's just some text. And what we want to do is we want to make it so that when you click on one of these tags, such as Elm, Fun, Programming, or Dragons, because, I mean, who doesn't want to? Obviously, that's going to be a popular tag. We want to filter the feed such that it only shows articles that have those tags. And we can do that using all the concepts that we just learned. So for example, if this is all of the things related to the Elm tag, and then I click on the programming tag, then maybe it's going to come back with just this one element in the feed because that's the only one that happens to have that particular tag. Okay, to do this, to make this interactive, we're going to need to introduce one more concept, which is the Elm architecture, because this is how Elm applications respond to user input and actually change what's going on based on that user input. So there are three fundamental ideas here: update, model, and view. We're going to go through what each of those do and how they relate to one another. Ultimately, what we're going to build up to is this diagram. This is a diagram of how the Elm architecture sort of fits together. We have model, view, and update. We're sending some HTML from view to the Elm runtime, and then Elm runtime is sending messages to update. So let's learn about these. We're going to start with view. So view is a function that takes a model as an argument. So the model refers, in this case, to the entire application state. Like really, the entire state of the whole application is just one argument that comes into view. And view uses that to return some HTML that says, this is how I want the page to look given this application state. So literally, when you call this function saying, here's the whole application state, that's all the stuff you have to work with in the entire universe, tell me how the page ought to look. And it's going to return these virtual DOM values, which then Elm is going to take care of putting on the screen. So model is the application state, really the entire application state, and that's going to get passed to view, which then returns some HTML describing how the page ought to look. Where does view return this to? Well, this is going to get called by the Elm runtime itself. So every time you compile your Elm application using Elm make, part of what gets compiled into that elm.js file is a runtime. And the runtime takes care of stuff like this, like interaction, like wiring behind the scenes, and translating these concepts into actual JavaScript code that's going to execute them in the browser. So we're going to define our view function, but we're not actually going to run it and cause it to mutate the screen. The runtime is going to take care of that. All we do is we say, hey, Elm runtime, this is my view function. We're going to sort of configure it to say, here's what I mean by a view function. And the runtime is going to actually pass the model into that and then take the results, and it's also going to take care of making the page look as requested by the view function. Whatever you put in this virtual DOM, the runtime is going to take care of making the real DOM on the actual page look that way, which is to say, like this.